Alright guys, we're back. Bird Island Part 2. We're going to look at one of my trips out to Bird Island, one of my earlier videos that I did when I first started recording. So this one goes back, a few years, but we'll take a look. It's pretty much the same. I just put in down there at Tommy Park and shoot up the Arroyo, go around Bird Island, and drift the grass flat right behind it. So let's take a look at it. So here we are, putting in. Beautiful morning on the lower Laguna Madre. Look at that. No wind, as you can tell. The water's like glass, so no wind at all. You see the sun coming up, so with it being that high in the sky, that's around 10 o'clock in the morning. That's between 10 and 10:30. That's usually about the time that I normally put out, sometimes 11. I usually don't get out there that early like a lot of people do before sunrise or at sunrise, because the park opens up at 6, so you can only get into the park by 6 a.m. and then you can put in your boat unless you launch from somewhere else. But look how beautiful it is. Beautiful morning. I already know this is going to be a good day, and I'm already thinking right off the bat, see how high the water is? You can see it. It's real high all up against the bank there. So I'm already thinking I'm going to go right behind Bird Island. Going to shoot straight out the Arroyo, go around the south side of Bird Island and to my left, and start drift fishing. But right there I saw something moving. That's what I was looking back at. Wasn't too sure what it was, but it was pretty big, whatever it was. But I couldn't really tell what it was, but it was something big moving in the water right there. But here we go. But as I say, just look at that sun. That sun's incredible, watching the sunrise out there on the lower Laguna Madre. Beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful morning. I'm already anticipating that, we're going to be on the ridge right off the bat. The only issue that I'm going to have is I'm not really going to be able to drift because there's no wind. So I'll have to pick the right spot to start off at until the wind picks up. Because one thing about drifting, you need to have wind. And I don't prefer a lot of wind. All I like is really, the best amount of wind is usually between 8 and 10 miles an hour. Anything over that just pushes you a little bit too fast. But generally down there and here in South Texas, the wind is usually blowing 30 miles an hour. That's an average day out of the south. So that's why I got to use a big sock. I have a big sock that I put on my boat, which is a 4-foot by 5-foot sock, and to slow me down. Because I like to drift as slow as possible so I can cover the area. Because I like covering the area just like a clock. You start at 12 o'clock and you work your all the way around. Or just do a 180 of that clock. You work from 6 to 12, which is one half of the boat, which would be on the, generally for me, it's on the starboard side of the boat, the way I drift fish. I usually fish off of the starboard side, and the only reason why I fish off of the starboard side when I'm drift fishing is because my trolling motor is on the port side. So that's why I always line the boat up when I'm drift fishing to fish off the starboard side, so there's nothing in my way that I can trip and fall over. So we're heading out, Cassie and me. This is, like I say, this is one of my earliest videos. This is back when I had my GoPro 6, which I still have, but I don't really use it that much anymore. But as you can see, the film quality is a little bit different. I mean, it's nice and clear, but this is using a GoPro 6. And I always had a lot of trouble, well, not just with the GoPro 6, but with all my GoPros of overheating. They tend to get hot and then don't want to work. And on this day, it did exactly that. And I missed when I caught a 25-inch trout in Rattlesnake Bay at the end of this video, because that's where I finished off. I finished off in Rattlesnake Bay before I came back in. I fished the whole day on Bird Island, which is, about 3 or 4 hours I fished out there. And then on the way back, I figured, what the heck, I'd just stop off at Rattlesnake Bay, and as the sun is setting, tried a few casts, and I caught a sheephead, and then I caught a 25-inch trout. But the GoPro kept overheating and I couldn't keep it on. So, but it's at the end of the video. We'll talk about that later. So, as I said, I'm a creature of habit. My three favorite spots: Bird Island, Green Island, Rattlesnake Bay. And generally, I'm going to put right in, and I'm going to come straight down, and I'm going to just go right around Bird Island and start fishing. Because it's right there. I don't even have to go anywhere. And that's usually where I usually start off my day at. And generally I don't have to go anywhere else because I usually catch them. As you'll see in this video, we caught plenty of redfish back there that day. And then on the way back, I just figured, what the heck, I'd stop off and try it up against the northernmost point of Rattlesnake Bay. Passing the barges that are sitting there waiting. Either they're waiting to go up to the Port of Harlingen, or they're just waiting to get back in the channel, because I'm sure there's another barge coming down or going up. I'm not sure what direction those are going, but there's always a lot of barges traveling up and down the intercoastal waterway, and they're just sitting there idle waiting. You see the fish moving in the water, so you can catch some nice sized ones here up and down the Arroyo. I just don't generally fish it anymore, because I used to fish it from the bank all the time, because I like the grass flats. I like drift fishing in the open grass flats, in the big wide open areas. But you can, I mean, it's just the same signs. You can look in the water and you can see bait fish moving. You can see some type of game fish chasing the bait fish, and then you just set yourself up to get in the mix of that, and generally it'll pay off. And usually it's trout, reds, and drum. I do see people fishing off the banks here. Their boats parked right up close to the shore and fishing right off the banks. But look at the day. Beautiful blue sky dotted with white clouds, and the sun is full blown. So that's making me excited. I can hardly wait to get out there to get fishing. And like I say, it's between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. That's about the time that this was taken on that day. It's very rare that I'll get out there early. That's usually my average time, is around between that time that I put in and get going. And by the time I get out there, it's usually about 11 o'clock. And you can pretty much catch fish. Back in the day, I was always a big high tide guy. I always went on high tide. That's when I'd fish. But I've learned over the years, you catch fish anytime the changing of the tide, the rising of the sun and the moon, and the setting of the sun and the moon. And if you notice, like in the video I did before on Bird Island, if you notice when I was at the dock, you could see it was about the same time, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun was coming up. But if you notice at the dock, if you look up on the horizon, you can see that the moon was setting. So that day, not only was the sun rising in the daytime, but the moon was setting in the daytime. So that made for a lot of fish activity with that gravitational pull. So that was a really good day. And so I follow the Sulliner chart. I'm a big Sulliner guy, so I like to go on the eve of the changing of the tides. So I don't care if it's changing from high tide to low tide or from low tide to high tide. I try to target that time to be in place, ready to fish when that tide is changing, because you got about a 2-hour window that you can do really well, because the fish are going to be moving, they're going to be feeding when the changing of that tide. And then like another 8 to 10 hours after that, about 8 hours after that, you'll have a minor one in the Sulliner chart also. that the fish will be moving because the tide's changing again. But the first big one over the day is always in the day. If you can catch that one, you're going to see it's going to produce. That's why I've been pretty good at when I go out and I catch, because that's what I look for. I look for the changing of the tide, rising of the sun, setting of the moon. What else can I tell you? That's basically how I fish nowadays. Back in the day, it was always had to be high tide, high tide, high tide. And which I did. I always did really good too at high tide. But I found out that you can catch plenty of fish around the changing of the tide also. I mean, it can be a low tide out there, and it's going to change to a high tide. You don't have to wait. Just go ahead and put in at low tide, and they'll start biting about an hour before the tide starts to change. Hour and a half. So if you can get out there before the tide change, the fish are already moving because they already know that the tide's coming, and they're already starting to move and feed. So here I am going out. We're going out. We're right there. We're right around Bird. You can't see Bird Island, but it's right to the left on the port side of the boat. That's where I'm looking over at it. I'm looking at the island, and I'm lining up. I see the first leaning post, and I'm making that turn. And as you can see, look at all the movement there in the water. I passed a lot of movement on this one because I was looking for a particular spot. And you see there's movement up here in the left-hand corner. I don't see much movement on the right, but there's plenty of movement in the water on the left. So that's telling me I want to go a little bit further. See that movement right there? That's game fish moving right there, chasing bait, first thing in the morning. So I always like to go south of, well, it depends whichever way the wind's blowing. So I like to go south of where I'm going to fish. Look at all this movement in the water. You see that? Plenty of bait fish and game fish stirring up there. Look at that. Excellent spot right there. But I like to go past what I'm going to fish, and then I like to drift back into it. That's the way I like to do it. But look how beautiful that sun is. Man, that was a beautiful morning. I always remember this day. It's incredible out there. Water was like glass. Beautiful morning on the lower Laguna Madre. Doesn't get any better than that. But see, look at all the movement in the water. Tons of movement. And see out there, I noticed a big spruce up there. So there's plenty of redfish moving here chasing bait fish. So I'm going to go a little bit further, and I'm going to stop it, and I'm going to drift back into them is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to start making my turn here in a little bit. You'll see. Yeah, I just saw a nice one there. And I'm thinking, man, maybe I ought to go to the right instead of the left, but I'm going to stick to my plan. I'm going to go to the left. There I go. Turning to the left. I'm going to set up. We're going to throttle down. We're going to come to a stop here in just a minute. And we're going to set it all up so we can start drifting back into them. Get lined out right there. As you can see, we're throttling down. Cassie's up and walking around. But seeing no wind. So this is going to be an interesting morning. The boat's not going to move, but just whatever the current is, which is very minimal there in the flats. But it will slowly inch back towards Bird Island and the channel, because that's the way the water's sucking it from all the water that's flowing through the channel. The water's about 60% clarity. Like I've always told you at Bird Island, it's never super clear. The closer you get to the island, the more murky it gets. But there's always fish there. Now look, you see up there on the top left-hand corner, you see that movement in the water way out there? You have something chasing bait fish. You see that? Look at all that movement. There's something there chasing bait fish. And more than likely it's redfish, because you can see I'm going to cast out there, and that's what I'm going to catch. But as you see the movement, it's right out in front of the boat now. So I'm going to pop the cork. I love popping the cork. I'm a popping the cork kind of guy. I'll fish artificial, yeah. I used to do that years ago, and I still do every now and then. But I love the action of popping the cork. But before I do anything, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my drone up. So this is my legacy drone, my first drone I ever bought. So that shows you how old this video is. I got 3 drones now, and this was the first one. This is the original Mavic Air. drone that came out, I think, in 2017, 2018, something like that, whenever they came out with that model. So I'm going to send that up. For all my drone footage and my videos, I have to send the drone up first thing in the morning, because once the wind picks up, it is very tough to get the drone back on the boat. You're just asking for trouble. I remember I sent it up in 30-mile-an-hour wind one time, and I lost it. I never got it back on the boat. So I avoid that by doing it first thing in the morning. So when I first go out, before I do any fishing, I get all my drone footage that's going to go in the video. And that's what I'm doing right there. I'm setting it up, and the drone's going to go up and fly. Cassie's pacing. She's getting ready. She wants to fish. So she's sitting there saying, come on, let's fish. But I got to get the drone footage out of the way. That old Mavic Air is a pretty good drone. I want to say it has 4K capability. It's either 1080p to 4K. I want to say that one had 4K on it. I just don't recall. It's been a while since I've used it, because it doesn't have the ID that it transmits like all the new drones have that you're required by the FAA. That one doesn't have it. I'd have to buy a modular to put on top of it so it transmits an ID. Because now, due to drone regulations, you're required to be registered with the FAA. So I have them all registered with the FAA, the other two drones that I have. And that one, I just don't really use it anymore, since it doesn't have that transmits the ID. But just look how beautiful it is. So while we're sitting here, you can see there's some fish. You see off to the front port side of the boat there, there's a little bit of movement way out there in the distance. So that's what you want to look for when you're sitting there. You want to observe, see what's moving in the water, listen, and just observe. And you'd be surprised what you see. And then once you start seeing the movement, then that's where you start casting in that area. And generally it pays off. So I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the drone to sync with the phone. That's the old style control module that you had to use your cell phone with it. Not like the new ones now where it comes all in one. But back then, those were, you just attach it to your cell phone so you have a screen so you can see. There it goes. So the drone's up. And there it goes. It's a beautiful morning. And I got the footage at the end of this video. It's beautiful. The water's like glass. It's like a mirror image between the sun and the water. It's beautiful. It was a beautiful morning on the lower Laguna Madre that morning. But you see that fish moving right there in front of the boat? You can see that. You can see his tail in the water right there. I'm too busy flying the drone, and I'm not watching for that. And then you see something move right there because it sees the drone. See, one thing about it is the fish see the drone as just as a regular predator, like it would any other osprey or hawk or whatever. Generally, an osprey is what feeds on them out there. They see it. Fish can see it, and it'll spook them and they'll run. They see the drone flying and they think it's a predator that's going to come get them. But you see all the movement once it goes over there, and look at all that movement. So when you're observing, you just want to see what's moving where and see what's chasing what. Always another good sign too that's a good place, especially for redfish, is when you see oil slicks in the water. Oil slicks are slicks from bait fish, big schools of bait fish that have run through there, and they leave the oil film off of them in the water because their school was so big. You'll see that a lot of times out there in the flats, and the predator fish follow that scent to catch up with them. So whenever you see oil slicks too in the water, that's always a good place to be fishing around too, because there's not going to be a predator fish too far behind that or in that area, in that general vicinity. Just looking for opportunity. Look at the clouds, beautiful. Beautiful morning. This mirror image on the water. Little dragonfly right there, flying around. Alright, here we go. Now let's get into it. So there's the first cast. After I got everything up, see, we're right there at Bird Island. And you can see the clarity is about 60% in the water. And I'm throwing right off the front because I'd noticed that there was movement out there. And let's see what this produces here. And you can see Green Island way off out there in the distance. It's way out there. Right there on the starboard side of the boat. You can see it off in the distance on the horizon. That's Green Island. Then El Morro Bay is way over there to the left. So what I have there is I have a popping cork, and I usually use that Back Bay Thunder. That's my preferred one. There are many varieties of that that I've used, but I've found that the Back Bay Thunder, because of the hard wire piece that it has that it runs through the cork, performs the best out there compared to the ones that have cable on them. And there he is. Look at that. Took it. And usually got about 6 to 7 inches of leader on it. And a number 4 treble hook. Fishing live shrimp. Live shrimp's always the best if you're going to fish live bait on popping cork. And just I've tried other mud minnows and stuff like that. They don't hit it as much. Finger mullet, they hit it better on the bottom than they do popping the cork. But nice red. Nice, beautiful red. Trying to get him in. And on that setup, I usually have 2 different sizes. I'll fish about a 6 to 7 inch shock leader, and then I carry another pole that usually has about 1.5 foot shock leader. So it's going to depend upon how deep of the water that I'm in, and that's going to determine which distance that I use. When I'm in the shallow, I use the little 6 to 7 inch shock leader rig, and when I'm in the deeper water, the 3 to 4 feet water, I'll use the 1.5 foot, if that makes sense. So we got that one in the boat. Cassie barked him right up. And we're going to pull him up. I remember, I want to say that one was probably 23 inches. We'll see when I get him up to the camera here. I remember right, the first one I caught was 23. 23, 24, right there somewhere.
Good job.
And like I said, we do pretty good here. Catch 3 or 4 of them easy.
What are you talking about, buddy? See where you hit it?
And you see how the water's not deep. It's probably about 18 to 20 inches that I'm in. But there are some deep areas there behind Bird Island, you know, like 4 feet. I wouldn't say deep like 5 feet, but you do have some potholes where it drops off to 4 feet. But most of the area is around 18 to 20 inches that you're fishing in that area behind there. So we're going to measure him out. Cassie's got to take a look at him. Give him a lick. And that one is, let's take a look. Put him up there. Yeah, that one's about a 23, 24. 23. I think if I recall right, he was 23 inches. That red was. Nice little 23-inch red. All right, second cast. Here we go. Same place, right behind Bird Island. As you can see, look at the water. We're in the same place. No wind. Moving real slow. And we're gonna make a connection with another one. Popping the cork. Live shrimp. I use an 8.5 foot one-piece rod there. It's an offshore angler rod. I love it. I love the to me, a bigger rod gives you better control over the fish than a smaller rod. So the longer the better. I was just over at Academy here a while ago, and they had some, man, I forget the brand name, but those things were 12 feet long rods, 12 feet. But they were for bait casting reels. They weren't for spinning reels like what I like to fish with. But a 12-foot rod, can you believe that? On a bait caster? And but it was two-piece. I like one-piece. I'm not big on two-piece rods. I prefer the one-piece. They're just stronger, more effective for me. But I was thinking about those. I wish that 12-footer. I wouldn't mind trying one of those out if they had one for a spin cast, a spinner for a spinning reel instead of for a bait caster. So we're popping it. I see something out there moving around, and I keep give it a few seconds, and then pop it some more, because I don't want to get too aggressive. If I get too aggressive, I'll scare him off. You know, you can work. You see him; he's right there to the left, and boom, there he is. Bam! He hit it. Look at that. Took it. And this one's a nice one. This one's a big one. This one was like 20. This one was like 25, I think, 25 or 26. This redfish that I caught here, because he goes around the boat. He's a good sized red. I got to walk him around because he's pulling the line. And you can still see out there. You see them moving. They're feeding there. Movement in the water. You see that? Right straight in front of the boat. You see those light spots? There's movement there.
Another one, buddy. Good job.
But I'm at the back of the boat fighting him. I'm gonna come around here on the starboard side, and then get him in right here. Cassie barked up a nice one here. If I remember right, he was 26. I want to say this one was 26 inches. I don't think it was 27, but I'm pretty sure it was 26 on this one. There he is. Right into the net.
Good job, Cassie. Big red.
I don't know what else I can tell you here. When it comes to fishing, everybody has their preference. You know what I mean? There's no, how should I say, right way to fish. Each person needs to develop. Oh, did you see that movement right out there? Something big out there moving. And I'm too busy messing with the fish, and I didn't see that, but I see it now in the video. But anyway, people, you have to develop your own way. There's no right way. We all have different techniques. We all have different things that work. You have to do what works for you. And, you know, I've been doing this for years, and it works for me. I've got plenty of fish over the years out there in the lower Laguna Madre. And you just got to develop your technique. Each person's different. You know, a lot of people don't like popping the cork. They're just artificial enthusiasts. I'll do both. It doesn't bother me. You know, bait is a natural fit, is a natural is natural for the fish to consume. So shrimp, I'll use shrimp, I'll use shad, I'll use finger mullet. I generally like using finger mullet when I'm fishing on the bottom. I don't like using finger mullet popping a cork. It just seems, for me, in my experience, I get better results fishing on the bottom or free floating a finger mullet. So this one was a 26. Yeah, 25, 26, right there somewhere. Nice red. That beautiful dot. Beautiful red. Alright, now you can see Bird Island. You see Bird Island? It's straight behind me right there where I'm standing off the bow of the boat. That's Bird Island. So you can see I'm right behind Bird Island, maybe about 1,000 yards off of it, 1,500 yards off of it. Well, I'm still behind Bird Island, and here comes the third fish right here. I don't remember how many I caught that day. I didn't put them all in the video. I just picked whichever ones. So we're right directly behind Bird Island. Probably what you would know as Tommy's Hole behind Bird Island. That's about where that area is, where I'm at right there. Tommy's Hole. But as you can see, the water isn't clear. There's not a lot of clarity back there. You get some clarity, and then a lot of time the water's a little murky, little clear, murky, clear, murky, clear. It's not clear like what you see in all my other grass flat videos where the water's crystal clear. I mean, all the way to the bottom, where you can catch those reds in there too. So you catch them in the murky water too. And you can see, look, I'm fishing with the other rig, it looks like, with the little bit longer leader on it. So that's got about the 1.5 foot leader, because that's probably, the water right there is probably about 2 feet deep. You want to try to keep the bait in the strike zone, so you don't want your leader to go too long and it sits below the strike zone. So you always want to try to aim for, if you're popping a cork, that your leader's not too long, that it's not going to be in the strike zone, because the fish will miss it. And most of the times, if you make it too long, all you're going to do is catch hard heads because they're sitting on the bottom, and that's when your bait hits the bottom. So this is another nice one here. Let's see how big this one is. Guess he barked up another one. But that's Bird Island right off of the port side of the boat, straight ahead. So I'm letting him run. He's running. I'm just going to let him run and tire himself out. I'm not going to try to force him in. Times when I've tried to force it in, it never ends well for me. I usually lose the fish. It'll usually snap the line. You know, it's what'll happen. Or I'll get him in too fast and then run under the boat and snap the line. So a lot of times I can save it with that big rod. If they try to go under the boat, I can pick the rod up high and I can keep them out from underneath the boat. That's one thing about it. It's got a lot of reach on the rod. Yeah, Cassie's all excited. She's just barking up a storm. So the camera died, so in the middle of that fish running, I had to put another battery in the GoPro to get it up and going again. So we're up and running, and I still got the fish. So he goes around the boat too. So this one might be the 26, 27-inch one, the biggest one yet. Wind picked up a little bit, as you can see. You can see the little ripples in the water there. So that's a little bit of good movement. I like that. Maybe just a hair a little bit faster than what it is, but that's working pretty good for me. Like I said, I usually like about 8 to 10 miles an hour wind. Is perfect for drifting. Gives you plenty of time to work the area. So here we go. Here we go. Oh, Now I'm going to make the move. We're going to net him. Nice, another nice red, man. Yeah, see, he's trying to get under the boat, but no, I don't let him. I keep him out. Yeah, big old red. So this one was probably the 26, 27 inch one here. So far, right there behind Bird Island, caught a 23, 24, 25, and then this one's either going to be a 26, 27. Not too bad. And it's only probably 1 o'clock. And that's it. Sun's overhead. Hadn't been there that long. And I didn't waste much fuel. I just put in right there at Talmay Park, shot down the Arroyo, came right out the mouth and went to right around to the backside of Bird Island and started drifting. Didn't even spend 1/8 of a tank of gas on that thing on this trip. That's why I'm saying, that's why I like these areas, because I don't have to travel that far to catch the fish. I can just come right out, put right here and right there in those three. So here it is. Let's take a look.
Good job, Cassie.
It's a beautiful redfish.
It's got to be at least 26, 27.
Nice one. Probably about a 26, 27 right there somewhere.
Beautiful red.
Beautiful red. Look at the color on it. Nice and healthy. Put up a good fight. So you can see the water. You see the water? How the visibility isn't crystal clear. It's about 60% visibility. So that's good. That's a good area still. And you know, not only do I catch redfish there, I catch trout there too, and I catch drum every now and then. But I do catch a lot of redfish and trout in this area. And as you can see, Bird Island's right there off of the bow of the boat. They're still right behind Bird Island. And Cassie is anxious. She did a good job barking up that one. Beautiful day. Beautiful day. Alright, let's get him out of the net. Take a look at him. Nice red. Look at the big old red.
He is 27 inches.
Yeah, he's either 26, 27. I just don't recall. I'm sure I say it in the video here. That's a beautiful redfish. Yeah, baby. Nice and fat. That's how you like them. Nice and fat. Look at that bad boy. I want to say this is the same one, no? I don't know why I put this in the video, but I did. Maybe from 2 different camera angles that I had. One on my phone and one on the GoPro. I'm sure that's what it was. This is the GoPro angle here. That's why the other one was a close-up, because it was on my cell phone. But you can see Bird Island's right out there, right off the bow of the boat. I like to stow the pole, get it out of the way. They don't get hooked. Yeah, this is the same fish, just at a different camera angle. So you can see I got my cell phone mounted right there on the console. So the first one was with the cell phone image, and then this one now is just the wide angle off of the GoPro, my GoPro 6. And now we're going to see it in the GoPro. Beautiful red. Look at that big old red.
27
Nice.
inch. Beautiful red. Yeah, baby.
They say Bird Island. Can't beat it.
Beautiful.
Redfish. It's been producing since the 1980s for me. I've been going out there since the 1980s. And it's always produced. One more time with the same fish. So I don't know what else I can add to this. It's just pretty basic. I mean, I popped the cork. Alright, so we're heading back in. It's a 3, but I changed my mind, and this is Rattlesnake Bay. You see how dark the water is here? This is on the southern end, or the northern end of Rattlesnake Bay, and that's Horsehead Island. That you see that big island up there? So we're in Rattlesnake Bay right now. I end the day in Rattlesnake Bay in this video. First 3 reds that were caught in this video were caught behind Bird Island. And I think I catch 2 trout and a sheephead here in Rattlesnake Bay. And the big trout, which was a 25-inch trout, the camera died on me. And then it kept dying. And then when I tried to film it, the camera would overheat and die. It'd only give me like a 20 seconds, and then it died. See, it was at the end of the day. Because you're going to see, once I make the turn here, the sun's already setting. But I'm in Rattlesnake Bay right now. That's what this is. If you're kind of wondering where I'm at. Which is another one of my favorite places on the Lower Laguna Madre. Since it was on the way back, I figured, what the heck. We'll stop off and try it there. We already had 3 reds. I think we caught more than 3 that day. But I think I kept 3 because I was running low on fish. And then I figured, you know what, I'll just give this a try. I still had some bait left. And I figured, we'll just fish the sunset. And Rattlesnake Bay up against Horsehead Island. So you see how murky the water is? Most of the time in Rattlesnake Bay, it's like that. You do get some green, like what they call trout green water. So I'm in the middle of Rattlesnake Bay at the northern tip of it, which is right next to the Arroyo, Colorado. That's where I'm at. And I'm going to drift to Horse Island is what my plan is. Horsehead Island is what I know it is, or Horse Island, whatever you want to call it. But the water right there is 3-4 feet deep, easy. Maybe 4.5 feet. Just look how much the boat's rocking. 3 to 4 feet deep, easy in that bay, right there, in that area of the bay. But when you get up to Horse Island, it gets pretty shallow. In the inches. And on this drift, I catch 1 trout. As you can see, there's the sun's setting. The water's murky, no clarity at all in this water, and look what I catch here. I catch a trout, right there, boom. Little speckled trout. That speckled trout. Nice little trout, man, keeper size. And if you look at it, I'm using my longer leader. That's about 1.5 foot shock leader I got on that setup. Like I told you, I carry 2 poles when I pop the cork. I carry 3 poles on the boat. 1 for lures, for artificial. 1 with the 6-inch shock leader, and then 1 with a 1.5 foot shock leader. Little keeper size trout there. Now here's where it died. And look at what I got here. The GoPro, right after that trout, it kept overheating and it wouldn't stay on. So take a look at what I got here. Nice little sheephead. 15-inch sheephead. Keeper size. Caught him out there in the grasslands. Rattlesnake Bay. Generally, you know, if you know about sheephead, they love structure and they hang around structure. So he was out there. Sheephead by far is the best eating drum out of all of them. And now look at this. Look at the trout I caught. Right after I caught that sheephead, I caught this guy, but I couldn't keep my GoPro going. It kept overheating. Look at this big old trout. 25-inch trout. Look at that bad boy. Huge. Huge trout, man. And you can see I'm right up against Horse Island right there. You see Horse Island's right there, man. I'm right up against it. The water's murky, and I caught that trout in murky water. Popping the cork with live shrimp. So, but I can't keep the GoPro going, and it dies right after this again. So I leave it off to let it cool off, give it a cool rundown before I head back in. You know. But so this is where we're going to sign it off, and you can watch the rest of it.